Hey there. Here's an original Remington Model R3843, also known as the Trail Hand. It's a six-bladed pocket knife that has a striking resemblance to the Boker camp knife. But this is a vintage knife. It dates between 1924 and 1933. We can date it in that range by its tang stamps, and I'll talk about the different Remington tang stamps and their date ranges in a minute. But Remington only made pocket knives from 1920 to 1940, between the two world wars. Before World War I, U.S. knife makers really had a hard time competing with foreign imports. But after World War I, the British and German knife industries were negatively impacted, and there was kind of an anti-German sentiment in the country. So there was an increased demand for U.S.-made pocket knives, and Remington filled that in a big way, converting plants and excess capacity to producing pocket knives. I think at one time they were making 10,000 pocket knives a day. But then World War II came along, and they needed those plants back to make war equipment and munitions, and so they sold their knife making equipment and all their stocks to Powell Blade Company, who made knives up until 1950 when that equipment wore out, and then they just shut it down. Okay, so let's take a look at the knife, and the first thing I want to show you is the main blade. It's a big spear point blade, and the tang stamp, if we can pick it up here. This might be a little difficult because it's really not all that clear on this knife anyway. But it reads Remington UMC for Union Metallic Corporation. That's a company that Remington bought. Inside a circle, Remington UMC in block letters inside a circle with made in over here above the circle and USA below the circle there. And Remington used that tag stamp, as I mentioned, from 1924 to 1933. Remington actually had two styles of tag stamps. They had what was called the straight line, which just said Remington. It read Remington. And in different ways, with underlined differently, things like that. But that was really for their economy line of knives. And then they had these circle tag stamps, which were for their higher quality knives. The original one just said Remington UMC in block letters with a circle around it. That was from 1921 to 1924. Then the one I just showed you here, which says Made in USA above and below from 24 to 33. And then the same thing, but with just Remington in script inside the circle from 1933 to 1935. And then finally, just Remington in block letters inside a circle. Nothing else from 1935 to 1940. Now, there should be a model number on the back of this. It should read R3843. But the corrosion over the years has really just obliterated it. Under magnification, if you look really hard, you can see just the bottom of the last number, which is 3. But let me just tell you how Remington's model numbers worked on pocket knives. The R indicated a folding knife. You might think Remington, but they used that for folding knife. And then the next 3 letters are going to be the pattern number. So in this case, 384 is the pattern number, and the last number, 3, connotes the handle material, the cover material, 3 always being bone. So this is like a brown jigged bovine bone handle. So that's the main blade. There's also a clip point small blade. And it also has the same tag stamp, although again, very hard to read here, but it is Remington UMC inside a circle with Made in to the right of the circle and USA to the left. You can see, this age of knife is going to have carbon steel. This knife was heavily rusted and corroded when I got it. I've been able to clean it up and get rid of the rust and the active corrosion, but the peppering and the pits and the staining, they're going to be there forever unless you want to remove a lot of material, which I don't want to do. There is a cap lifter flathead screwdriver with no markings. The old style can opener. Now this is a Remington's two-piece can opener. They actually said this was stronger than the one-piece. I don't know how. But it also has a marking, and in script it says Remington right here. And on the back you have a long and rather narrow corkscrew. It's beefy enough. It's just very tightly curled. You see here it has brass liners, nickel silver bolsters which are lined, nickel silver pins, nickel silver shield. The shield reads Remington, UMC. This is what they call the round shield. I've heard it referred to as the cartridge shield, but I believe this is just like the round shield. Nickel silver bail. And then also on the back is a rather large awl. Get this cleaned up. So Remington began selling knives again in 1982, but they don't make them. They just use other people to build them and sell them under the Remington name. And 1982 is also when they brought out their collector line of reproductions of bullet knives. Bullet knives being, you know, the knives that originally had the knife cartridge or bullet set in the handle. And there were like, I think originally just 11 different patterns of bullet knives, but they've brought one out every year since from 1982. Here's a picture that somebody put together of the different bullet knife reproductions. It's all of them but a few. So it's my understanding that Camillus made them from 1982 to like 2006 or 7. I'm not really clear there exactly when they stopped, 2006 or 7. But you know, Camillus went bankrupt in 2007. From 2007 or 8, they're on to 2017. Bear and Company, I'm sorry, Bear and Sons made the bullet knives, the annual bullet knives for Remington. And then in the last 2 years, 2018 and 2019, Buck Knives out of Idaho has made the bullet knife. So they've always been, the reproductions since 82 have always been made here in the U.S. Now, they reproduced this knife in 1996 as a bullet knife. And they called it the Trail Hand. I don't know if it was originally called the Trail Hand, but I doubt it. I mean, I don't know why a trail hand would need a corkscrew and a cap lifter. But they released this in 2 different versions, with the round shield that you see here and with the bullet shield. Let me show you a picture of those. So they both had Delrin handles, unfortunately, not bone. And I've never actually seen an original one of these with the bullet shield. So I don't know if they ever really had that bullet shield. But this pattern was one of the bullet shield reproductions from 1996. And each year they release a bullet knife. They also have a poster that goes with it. Really cool artwork. Usually it's kind of on the Old West or trappers or something, you know, and they're always doing something heroic with their knife. And so I'll show you the poster for this one, 1996. Yeah, it looks like the guys had to jump up in the middle of the night and cut their horses loose there at camp because of a wildfire sweeping in. Okay, so just a word about the condition of this knife. When I bought it, you know, it was very rusty and very corroded. It was a purchase off of eBay. I'm pretty sure I overpaid for it. I was the only person to bid on it, which tells me the minimum bid was probably too high. But the reason I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it was that I thought the knife was complete, and it is. It has no broken or shortened tools, and it has the original bail, which is very important. I didn't see any evidence of it being tampered with. You know, I didn't see any evidence from the pins of it being taken apart and put back together. So I was pretty sure that, you know, none of the tools had been swapped out. And I queried the seller before I bid on it, and I said, hey, how's the action? Does it snap open and close everything? You know, is everything tight and not wobbly? He assured me that it was, and you probably heard as we went through it that it is. So it's a good sound knife. And I'll just say the quality of this knife is on par with the early Bokers. I've had two Bokers from pre-World War II and one from the 50s. Currently own this one, which is just a modern one. But the build and the materials seem to be just as good as the old Bokers. And it is my understanding that Remington brought over cutlers from Sheffield, England and Solingen, Germany when they first started making these pocket knives to get them right. So it's a really good knife. It's got a good hefty feel to it, very quality. So let me show you some before and after pictures and end with a slideshow. Thanks for watching.